The rain hammered against the penthouse windows as Maya Chen knelt on the hardwood floor, reaching under the king-sized bed for her missing earring. Her fingers brushed against something unexpected, a wooden box, dusty and forgotten. She pulled it out, curiosity overriding the voice warning her against invading privacy. Inside were dozens of letters, all written in elegant handwriting she recognized instantly. They were from Ethan Park, her husband of 3 years, the man she believed had a heart made of ice. Maya's hands trembled as she unfolded the first letter, dated 2 weeks after their wedding. "I watched her sleep tonight," it read. "She looked so peaceful, so beautiful. I wanted to reach out and touch her face, but I know she'd recoil. She married me out of duty, nothing more. How can I tell her that I've been in love with her since the moment I saw her at the charity gala 5 years ago?" Maya's breath caught. 5 years ago? Before their families had even discussed the marriage arrangement? She read letter after letter, each revealing a man she'd never known. He wrote about the way she hummed while making coffee, how her laugh made his day worthwhile, how he stayed late at the office not because he didn't want to come home, but because he was terrified she'd see the longing in his eyes. "I protect her the only way I know how," one letter confessed. "By keeping my distance. My world is dangerous, filled with corporate enemies like Kenneth O and family secrets that could destroy her. If she knew the truth about my father's death, she'd never feel safe again." Maya's tears fell onto the paper, smudging the ink. For 3 years, she'd believed Ethan was incapable of emotion, that their marriage was nothing but a business transaction. She'd watched him maintain his distance, speaking with polite formality, never touching her beyond what was necessary for public appearances. And all this time, he'd been suffering in silence, loving her from afar. The sound of the front door opening made her freeze. Ethan was home early. Maya tried to gather the letters, but her shaking hands scattered them across the floor. His footsteps approached the bedroom, steady and purposeful. As his tall silhouette appeared in the doorway, his usually composed expression shifted to raw, vulnerable fear. His dark eyes fixed on the letters spread around her, and for the first time in 3 years, she saw the mask crack completely. Ethan stood frozen in the doorway, his briefcase slipping from his hand and hitting the floor with a dull thud. The sound seemed to break the spell between them. Maya watched as he ran a hand through his dark hair, a gesture she'd never seen him make before. It was uncontrolled, almost desperate. "How much did you read?" he asked, his voice rough and strained. She looked down at the scattered letters, then back at him. "Enough," she whispered. "Enough to know that everything I believed about you was wrong." He stepped into the room slowly, like approaching a frightened animal. Maya noticed his hands were shaking as he loosened his tie. "I never meant for you to find those," Ethan said quietly. "They were my weakness, my way of being honest when I couldn't be honest with you." He moved to the window, keeping his back to her. The city lights reflected in the rain-streaked glass, casting shadows across his tense shoulders. 5 years ago at that gala, you were wearing a blue dress. You were laughing with Adrian Nam, and I thought you were the most beautiful woman I'd ever seen." Maya's heart raced. Adrian Nam, her childhood friend who'd confessed his feelings for her just before her arranged marriage was announced. "I remember that night," she said softly. "I remember thinking there was a man watching me from across the room, but when I looked, he was gone." Ethan's shoulders tensed. "That was me. I left because I knew I couldn't have you then. I was nobody, just my father's disappointing son trying to prove himself in the business. You were engaged to someone else at the time." "That engagement ended 2 months later," Maya said, standing up. The letters crinkled beneath her feet. "And then our families arranged our marriage. I thought it was random, just business." Ethan finally turned to face her, and the raw emotion in his eyes took her breath away. "It wasn't random, Maya. I asked my father to approach your family. I manipulated the entire situation because I was selfish enough to want you, even if you could never love me back." The confession hung between them like broken glass. Maya's mind reeled. Everything she'd believed about their marriage, about being trapped in a loveless arrangement, was crumbling. "Why didn't you tell me?" she demanded, anger mixing with confusion. "Why did you let me think you didn't care? Do you know how many nights I cried myself to sleep thinking I was just a business asset to you? Pain flashed across Ethan's face. Because Marcus Young warned me that Kenneth O was planning something, using my connections against me. The less you knew, the safer you'd be. He took a step toward her. And because I saw the way Adrian still looked at you at our wedding. You deserve someone who could love you openly, not someone drowning in secrets and danger. Maya's anger flared hot and immediate. You don't get to decide what I deserve, Ethan, she said, her voice trembling. For 3 years, you made that choice for me. 3 years of loneliness, of wondering what was wrong with me that my own husband couldn't stand to be in the same room as me. She grabbed one of the letters from the floor and held it up. You wrote here that you loved watching me read by the window on Sunday mornings. I didn't even know you noticed I existed on Sunday mornings. Ethan moved closer, and Maya could see the conflict warring in his dark eyes. I noticed everything, he said hoarsely. Every smile you gave Eric Hahn when he visited. Every time you lit up talking to Adrian when he called. Every moment you were happy, I memorized it because those moments had nothing to do with me. He stopped just inches from her, close enough that she could smell his cologne mixed with rain. I noticed every time you pulled away when I accidentally brushed against you. Every polite smile that didn't reach your eyes. Every wall you built because I built mine first. The air between them crackled with 3 years of suppressed emotion. Maya's hands shook as she clutched the letter. You're right, she whispered. I did build walls. But only because yours were already so high I couldn't see over them. She looked up at him, tears streaming down her face. Do you know what it's like to love someone who treats you like a stranger? To hope every single day that maybe today he'll look at you with something other than cold politeness? Ethan's breath hitched. What did you say? His hand reached out but stopped midair, hovering between them like a question he was afraid to ask. Maya realized what she'd just admitted, the words that had slipped out in her anger and pain. Her cheeks flushed hot, but she didn't take them back. I said I love you, she repeated, her voice stronger now. I've loved you since 6 months into our marriage, when you thought I was asleep and you covered me with a blanket and whispered, "Goodnight, my Maya." The mask Ethan had worn for 3 years shattered completely. His hand finally moved, trembling as it cupped her face. You were awake, he breathed. His thumb brushed away her tears with a gentleness she'd never experienced from him. Maya, the sharp ring of his phone cut through the moment. Ethan's jaw clenched as he glanced at the screen. It's Marcus, he said, his voice tight. I have to take this. He stepped away, and Maya felt the distance like a physical loss. She watched him answer, his expression hardening back into the cold mask she knew so well. What do you mean Kenneth's made his move? Ethan said into the phone. His eyes found Maya's across the room, and she saw fear flash through them. When? How bad? He listened, his face growing paler. Don't let anyone know. I'm coming now. He ended the call and looked at Maya with an expression that made her blood run cold. I have to go, Ethan said, already moving toward the door. Maya grabbed his wrist without thinking, the first time she'd initiated physical contact in their entire marriage. He froze, staring down at her hand on his arm. No, she said firmly. Not this time. You don't get to drop a confession like that and then run away to deal with Kenneth O alone. Whatever danger you've been protecting me from, I deserve to know the truth now. Ethan's eyes searched her face, and she saw the internal battle playing out behind them. Finally, he closed his eyes and exhaled slowly. My father didn't die in a car accident like everyone thinks, he said quietly. Kenneth O had him killed because my father refused to let O's company merge with Park Industries. They made it look like an accident, but Marcus found evidence. I've been gathering proof for 3 years, building a case that will destroy Kenneth completely. He opened his eyes, and the pain in them was devastating. But Kenneth knows I'm close. Marcus just informed me that he's threatening to release fabricated evidence that would implicate you in corporate espionage unless I back off. Maya's heart hammered in her chest. Me? Why would he involve me? Ethan's hand covered hers, still gripping his wrist. Because he knows you're the only thing in this world I actually care about, he said, his voice breaking. He's been watching us, Maya. He knows that despite how cold I've been, despite every wall I built, you're my weakness. If he destroys you, he destroys me. The revelation hit her like a punch to the gut. All this time, Ethan's distance hadn't just been about protecting her from general danger, it had been a specific, calculated defense against a man who'd murdered his father. That's why you never touched me, Maya breathed. Why you never let anyone see us as anything but a business arrangement. You were trying to make sure Kenneth didn't know. Ethan nodded, his thumb absently stroking her wrist where she held him. I failed, he said bitterly. He figured it out anyway. Before Maya could respond, the apartment's doorbell rang. They both froze. Nobody visited unannounced, especially not at this hour. Ethan's entire body tensed as he moved protectively in front of Maya. Stay behind me, he ordered, his voice dropping to the cold, commanding tone she was used to. They moved together toward the front door, and Ethan checked the security camera. His expression darkened. It's Adrian Nam, he said flatly. Maya's stomach dropped. Adrian showing up at their home late at night, right in the middle of this moment, felt like the universe's cruelest timing. I didn't know he was coming, she said quickly. Ethan's jaw clenched as he opened the door. Adrian stood there, soaking wet from the rain, his eyes immediately finding Maya behind Ethan. Maya, thank God, Adrian said breathlessly. We need to talk. I just found out something about your husband that you need to know before it's too late. Ethan's body went rigid, blocking the doorway completely. Whatever you have to say, Nam, you can say it to both of us, he said, his voice dangerously calm. Adrian's eyes flickered between them, his wet hair plastered to his forehead. Fine, Adrian said, pulling out his phone. I work with Kenneth O's legal team now. Tonight, he showed me files evidence that Ethan Park has been embezzling from his own company and planning to frame you, Maya, as his accomplice. Maya felt the floor shift beneath her feet. That's a lie, she said immediately, but doubt crept into her voice. How well did she really know her husband? She just discovered he'd manipulated their entire marriage arrangement. What else had he done? Ethan didn't turn around, but she felt him tense further. Kenneth sent you here, Ethan said flatly. He knew exactly what finding those letters would do, didn't he? He's been watching our apartment. He knew Maya would discover them tonight. The accusation hung in the air like poison. Adrian stepped closer, his expression sincere and concerned. Maya, I've known you since we were kids. I've watched you suffer in this cold marriage for 3 years. I'm trying to protect you, he pleaded. Come with me right now, before the authorities arrive. Kenneth is filing charges tomorrow morning. If you're still here, you'll be implicated too. He extended his hand toward her, the same hand that had held hers through childhood, through heartbreak, through every difficult moment before Ethan. Maya looked at Adrian's outstretched hand, then at Ethan's rigid back. Her husband still hadn't turned to face her, hadn't defended himself beyond the initial accusation about Kenneth. The silence felt like abandonment. Ethan, she whispered, her voice breaking. Look at me. Tell me Adrian's wrong. Tell me you didn't use me. Slowly, agonizingly, Ethan turned. The expression on his face was the cold, unreadable mask she'd lived with for 3 years. The vulnerable man who'd confessed his love minutes ago had vanished completely. Go with him if that's what you want, Ethan said, his voice empty of emotion. I won't stop you, Maya. I never could. The words felt like a knife to her chest. After everything they just shared, after the letters and the confessions, he was pushing her away again. Maya's eyes filled with tears. That's it, she demanded. You're just going to let me walk away? You're not even going to fight for me? Something flickered in Ethan's eyes, pain, regret, love, but it disappeared as quickly as it came. The only way I know how to fight for you is to let you go, he said quietly. Behind her, Adrian's hand remained extended, waiting. Maya stood frozen between the two men, between the childhood friend who'd always been honest with her and the husband who'd loved her in secret for years. Her phone buzzed in her pocket. She pulled it out with shaking hands and saw a text from an unknown number. Ask your husband about the $50 million transfer to the Cayman Islands last week. K.O. Maya's hands trembled as she held up her phone, showing the text to Ethan. "Explain this," she demanded, her voice barely steady. "Explain the $15 million. She watched his face carefully, searching for any crack in that infuriating mask. Ethan glanced at the screen, and for a split second, something like resignation crossed his features. "I can't," he said simply. Those two words broke something inside her. "Can't or won't?" Maya's voice rose with desperation and anger. Adrian moved closer, his hand gently touching her shoulder. "Maya, please. We need to leave now. I have a car waiting downstairs. I can protect you from whatever mess Ethan's created." She looked at Adrian's earnest face, the face of someone who'd never lied to her, who'd always been transparent about his feelings. Then she looked back at Ethan, who stood there like a statue, offering nothing, explaining nothing. The man who claimed to love her but kept pushing her away. "I'll pack a bag," Maya heard herself say, the words feeling distant and surreal. She moved toward the bedroom, and neither man tried to stop her. Her hands moved mechanically, pulling clothes from drawers, toiletries from the bathroom. Through the open door, she could hear Adrian's voice, low and urgent. "You're doing the right thing, finally letting her go. She deserves better than your secrets and lies." Ethan's response was too quiet for her to hear. Maya's eyes fell on the scattered letters still covering the bedroom floor. She knelt down, gathering them with trembling hands, and shoved them into her bag. She didn't know why, maybe as evidence, maybe as a reminder of the man she'd glimpsed beneath the ice. When she emerged with her bag, Ethan was standing by the window, his back to them both. "Ethan," she said, giving him one last chance. He didn't turn around. Adrian guided her toward the door, his hand protective on her lower back. As they reached the threshold, Ethan finally spoke. "The blue dress you wore that night 5 years ago," he said, to the window, to the rain, to the city beyond. "You told someone it was your mother's favorite color. That you wore it to make her happy even though you preferred red. I remember thinking that your selflessness would destroy you someday." Maya's breath caught. How could he remember such a small detail? "Maya, we need to go," Adrian urged, already pulling her into the hallway. She let him lead her to the elevator, her mind spinning. As the doors closed, she caught one final glimpse of their apartment door, still open, Ethan's silhouette visible through it, finally turning to watch her leave. The elevator descended, and with each floor, Maya felt her heart breaking further. Adrian's phone buzzed. He glanced at it and smiled slightly. "Kenneth's secured you a hotel room. You'll be safe there tonight." Something about his tone made her stomach twist with unease. The hotel suite Adrian brought her to was immaculate and cold, nothing like a safe haven should feel. Maya stood by the window watching the rain, Adrian's reflection visible behind her in the glass. "I need to make a call," he said, stepping onto the balcony. Through the glass, she watched him talk on his phone, his expression shifting to something she'd never seen before, calculating, almost cruel. Her instincts screamed that something was wrong. Maya pulled out her phone and stared at Kenneth O's text again. Then, acting on impulse, she opened her laptop and accessed her email. Buried in her spam folder was a message from Marcus Young, sent 3 hours ago. "Maya, if you're reading this, Ethan's in danger. Kenneth O is using Adrian Nam to isolate you. Don't trust anything Adrian tells you tonight. The transfer Ethan made was to secure evidence against Kenneth, witness protection for the people testifying. Call me immediately." Her blood ran cold. She looked up just as Adrian re-entered, his smile too bright, too practiced. "Kenneth will be here in an hour to brief you on the legal proceedings," he said smoothly. Everything clicked into place. Adrian's convenient timing, his knowledge of the letters, his insistence that she leave immediately. "You're working with Kenneth," Maya said quietly, backing away. "You've been working with him all along." Adrian's mask dropped. "Smart girl," he said, his voice losing its warmth. "Kenneth needed leverage against Ethan, and I needed you away from that controlling bastard. Win-win." He moved toward her, blocking the door. "You were supposed to be mine, Maya. Before the families, before the arrangements, you were supposed to choose me.
But you married him instead.
The hurt in his voice was real, twisted into something dark and possessive. Maya's heart pounded as she calculated her options. "So you helped the man who murdered Ethan's father?" she asked, trying to keep him talking while she edged toward her bag. "You used our friendship, my trust, just to punish me for not loving you back?" Adrian's expression hardened. "I'm saving you from a man who'll get you killed with his vendetta." Her fingers found her phone in her bag. One call to Marcus, one call to Ethan, and she could warn them about Kenneth's plan. But Adrian was watching her too closely, his hand suddenly gripping her wrist with painful pressure. "Let go of me, Adrian," Maya said, her voice steady despite the fear coursing through her. His grip tightened, and she saw the desperation in his eyes, the look of a man who'd lost everything and had nothing left to lose. "I can't let you warn him," Adrian said. "Kenneth promised me that once Ethan's destroyed, once he's in prison for crimes he didn't commit, you'd finally see that I'm the one who truly loves you." Maya's free hand shot out, grabbing the hotel lamp and swinging it toward Adrian's head. He ducked, releasing her wrist, and she ran for the door. Her fingers had just touched the handle when the door burst open from the outside. Eric Hahn stood there, breathing hard, with 2 security guards behind him. "Maya, thank God," Eric said, his eyes immediately finding Adrian. "Marcus tracked your location. We need to get you out now." Adrian lunged forward, but the guards restrained him. "You don't understand," Adrian shouted as they pulled him back. "Ethan's going to get her killed. Kenneth O has assassins, real killers, and Ethan's obsession with revenge is going to put Maya in the crosshairs." His words, even twisted by his betrayal, carried a kernel of truth that made Maya's blood run cold. Eric grabbed her hand, pulling her into the hallway. "Is it true?" she asked him. "Is Ethan really in that much danger?" Eric's grim expression was answer enough. "Kenneth made his move an hour ago. He's filed false charges against Ethan, frozen all of Park Industries' accounts, and leaked fabricated evidence to the media. By morning, Ethan will be arrested unless we can prove Kenneth's involvement in his father's murder." They rushed toward the elevator, Eric constantly checking over his shoulder. "Where is Ethan now?" Maya demanded. "Tell me he's somewhere safe." Eric's silence spoke volumes. When the elevator doors opened, Maya saw Marcus Young waiting in the lobby, his face grave. "He went to confront Kenneth," Marcus said without preamble. "Alone. He said it was the only way to draw Kenneth out, to make him confess on record. He's wearing a wire, but Maya..." Marcus's voice cracked. "Kenneth knows about the wire. Eric just got word from our contact inside Kenneth's organization." Maya felt her world tilt. Ethan had walked into a trap, knowing it was a trap, because it was the only way to protect her and get justice for his father. "Where?" she demanded, already moving toward the exit. Marcus grabbed her arm gently. "Kenneth's private estate outside the city." "But Maya, Ethan made me promise not to let you anywhere near there. He said if anything goes wrong, my only job is to keep you safe." She looked at Marcus with tears streaming down her face, then at Eric. "Take me to him," she said firmly. "Right now." The drive to Kenneth O's estate felt endless, rain hammering against the car windows like bullets. Maya sat in the back seat between Marcus and Eric, her heart racing with every mile. "There's a service entrance on the east side," Marcus explained, pulling up security blueprints on his tablet. "Kenneth's security is tight, but our contact can get us inside." "Maya, you need to understand, what you're about to see might destroy you. Ethan's been playing a dangerous game." They arrived at the massive iron gates, and Marcus's contact, a security guard with frightened eyes, let them through. Inside the main house, Maya heard voices coming from Kenneth's study. She moved silently down the hallway, Marcus and Eric flanking her. Through a crack in the door, she saw Ethan standing before Kenneth O, a man in his 60s with cold, calculating eyes. "Your father begged too," Kenneth was saying, circling Ethan like a predator. Right before the brakes failed on his car. Maya's hand flew to her mouth, stifling a gasp. Ethan's face was bruised, blood trickling from his lip, but his expression remained defiant. "You're confessing to murder," Ethan said clearly, his hand subtly touching his jacket where the wire was hidden.
Kenneth laughed, a sound devoid of humanity. That wire stopped working 10 minutes ago, boy.
My men made sure of it. You came here to die just like your father, and your precious Maya will spend the rest of her life thinking you abandoned her.
Something primal surged through Maya.
She burst through the door before Marcus could stop her.
He didn't abandon me, she said, her voice ringing through the room. Ethan's eyes went wide with horror and fear. Maya, no, he breathed. Kenneth's smile widened. How touching.
The devoted wife arrives just in time to watch her husband's ending. He pulled a gun from his desk drawer, aiming it directly at Ethan's chest. Maya's phone was already recording, held high in her shaking hand. "Say it again, Kenneth," she said loudly.
"Tell me how you murdered Ethan's father.
Tell me how you've been threatening us, fabricating evidence, using Adrian to manipulate me.
Say it all again while I'm recording." Kenneth's expression shifted from confidence to uncertainty.
Behind him, Marcus and Eric emerged from their hiding spots, their phones also recording.
Kenneth's hand wavered, the gun now swinging between Ethan and Maya. "You think this changes anything?" he snarled. "I own half the police force, every judge in this city. Your recordings mean nothing."
Ethan moved then, faster than Maya had ever seen him move, putting himself directly between Kenneth's gun and her. "Shoot me if you want," Ethan said quietly, "but you'll never touch her.
The recordings are already uploading to every news outlet in the country. It's over, Kenneth. You lost the moment she walked through that door." 3 months later, Maya stood in the penthouse bedroom, the same room where she'd discovered Ethan's letters.
Kenneth O was awaiting trial for murder, conspiracy, and corporate fraud. Adrian Nam had been arrested as an accomplice.
The recordings from that night had dismantled Kenneth's empire piece by piece.
Park Industries had been restored, and Ethan's father's name cleared. But none of that mattered as much as the man standing in the doorway, watching her with the same longing he'd hidden for years. "You're thinking too loud again," Ethan said softly, walking toward her. The bruises from that night had faded, but Maya knew the emotional scars would take longer to heal. They'd spent the past 3 months learning each other all over again, this time without walls, without secrets, without the suffocating fear that had kept them apart. "I was thinking about the letters," Maya admitted. "About how you loved me in silence for so long.
I don't want us to be silent anymore."
Ethan reached for her hand, his touch gentle and sure.
"No more silence," he promised. "No more distance. No more protecting you by pushing you away."
He pulled her closer, his forehead resting against hers.
"I almost lost you that night.
When you walked into Kenneth's study, I saw my entire world about to end.
And I realized that living without you would be worse than any danger we'd ever face together."
Maya's hands cupped his face, her thumbs tracing his jawline. "You said at the gala 5 years ago that my selflessness would destroy me someday," she whispered. "But it was your selflessness that almost destroyed us both. Promise me we'll be selfish together from now on. Promise me we'll fight for each other, not just protect each other." Ethan's answer was a kiss, their first real kiss, full of passion and promise and 3 years of longing finally unleashed. When they broke apart, both breathless, Ethan pulled a letter from his pocket.
"I wrote you one more," he said.
"But this time, I'm reading it to you." His voice was thick with emotion as he read words of love, of gratitude, of forever. Maya listened with tears streaming down her face, finally hearing everything he'd kept locked inside. "I love you, Maya Chin Park," he finished.
"Not in silence anymore.
Every day, out loud, for the rest of our lives." Maya smiled through her tears, pulling him close.
"I love you too, Ethan Park. Out loud, always."
Outside, the rain had stopped, and the first rays of morning sun broke through the clouds. In the bedroom where secrets had once been hidden beneath the bed, two people who'd loved each other in silence finally began their story, this time with open hearts, honest words, and a love that had survived the darkest storms.